extremely generous, and I'm gonna dance between the posts here because I know there's some of y'all there and some of y'all here. Nancy, thank you so much for that very, very gracious introduction, and also Susan, thank you for your leadership. You and the board, all the volunteers who helped to make this possible. This is not an easy task to undertake, and we're appreciative of your leadership. Y'all give it up for Susan and the board. I really do feel at home, and I got these notes that I'm supposed to refer to, but it's going to be hard to stand behind this podium and do this, so I'm just going to share a little bit about what I know to be the case and what I know to be true. What I know to be true is that I was born the fifth of 7 children in Miami, Florida, to my mother, Frances Gillum. Growing up was a school bus driver, and my daddy, Charles Gillum, growing up was a construction worker. And what I know to be true is that I had 2 of the hardest working parents on this side of earth. They did everything that they could to make a way for me and for my brothers and my little baby sister. They had 7 kids, all boys, and 1 girl. Yes. God help the world. She's bad, y'all. She works for the Southern Poverty Law Center. She works for SPLC and has been involved in a major litigation in Alabama, where juveniles have been overcharged in the adult system, and they bought a class action lawsuit to transform what's happening in that state, and has recently located to Tallahassee, Florida, where I live, and is involved in trying to change Florida's broken criminal justice system for the better. And I couldn't be proud of that work. I'm the first in my family to graduate from high school. I'm also the first to attend and graduate from college. And my younger brother and my younger sister came after me and did the same. I point that out because it's really important to know that there are some things that happen that help to break the cycle of intergenerational poverty. And some of that is just having someone in your life that you can feel, that you can touch, who has been there and done that. And then it creates in your mind the belief, the possibility that it can happen for you too. And we can't minimize what that means for so many people in so many communities. It meant something in my family, and I know that it means something in families all across this state. Because my mother and father had to get up so early in the morning, they would pack us in a car and drive us over to my grandparents' house. I hope the law in Florida did not require seatbelts or baby seats at the time, because I don't really remember having those. When we would get to my grandmother's house, we'd sleep a little bit longer before she would get us up and get us ready for the day. And she had a regular tradition she would do. My grandmother, who was a praying woman, would take a bottle of olive oil, and she'd take off the top and dip her finger in that olive oil, and she'd take the residue and she'd build across on our foreheads every morning. It was her way of sending us out with a blessing so that no bad will come in our midst. I joke even today that I have a shiny forehead from that residue, right? That blessing that has carried me from then to this point. But before she would push us out the door, she would have some advice. She'd say, boy, go to school, mind your teachers, get your lesson, and one day bring it home. She said, bring it home for your little brother and your little sister who don't know what it is. Bring it home. Bring it home for that boy down the street that you play with. God knows where he's going to end up. Bring it home. Bring it home for your mama and for your daddy, who get up every day to make sure that they keep a roof over your head and clothes on your back and food on the table. Bring it home. What my grandmother was telling me then, and I didn't know it in that moment, but I would later learn it. She was saying that I was responsible for more than just me. I was responsible to my brother and to my sister and to my friends and to my parents and to her and to my community. She was expressing then what I now know is this common shared belief that if I did good, we all did good. If I went far, we all went far. That's really, I actually think that that's part of the bedrock of our party. That's a belief system that sort of flows through the lifeblood of who we are as Democrats. That we actually believe that we're connected and that together we can do much better things than we do individually. And that guess what? For any of our success that we may count today, it took a community, it took a group of people, maybe some family members who inspired you and spoke truth into you and inspiration into you that you can do a little bit more. For me, it was my family indeed, but it was also my teachers. There's one teacher in particular, Miss Alexandria. And in Gainesville, Florida, when we moved and relocated from Miami, she said, Andrew, you're a really bright kid. I think you should consider taking honors courses. And of course, I didn't know anybody who was taking honors courses, and I resisted, and she persisted. And eventually I relented, and we took one. And then that one led to taking pre-AP courses, and then advanced placement courses, and then putting me on a trajectory to graduate from high school and to go to college. It was a loving professional who, unfortunately in this state, the profession's being ripped down, torn apart, deconstructed, all for the purpose of lifting up a privatized system in this state, right? It's not done in the interest of students. It's done in the interest of taking confidence out of what should still be the one public system where we all still believe we can get ahead. That in education still is the biggest transformative factor that exists between moving someone out of poverty and into prosperity. That's what public education is supposed to be, and that's what we gotta make it be again. Instead of calling our teachers evil and their unions evil, we're in this building, it can't be that evil. They're gracious enough to make that happen, and I joke. But the truth is that instead of calling them names, we ought to be figuring out how we support our teachers to do what is, in my opinion, the most difficult work that happens on planet Earth. The making, shaping, molding, and inspiring of minds. There's a teacher who told me that I could go further. That I could do what I thought that I couldn't do, who inspired me and propped me up when I was on my leaning side. Those were teaching professionals that did that. And family plays a great role, and community plays a great role, but they also mean something. And so when I'm governor, we're not going to just support teachers, but we're going to get rid of this system of high stakes testing where we literally have kids. We know it and we see it. These systems that are built are not intended to produce the best young minds that they possibly can. This is built to build an industry off of testing and measurements, and I believe in measurements, but we gotta look, we gotta follow the money, folks. That's what we're leading in. We're leading in high stakes testing. Never mind that our kids are literally on anxiety medication before taking these tests because of what they foretell of their future. And we gotta have that differently because in our system, in our world, it's important that we build whole people, whole individuals. And there's a way that we can do that through our K-12 system. But I want to start before K-12. I want to start from 0 to 5. Why? Because those are the most critical years of education. And I've done this in Tallahassee as the mayor. I rolled out a Family First initiative that is principally focused on creating high-quality early learning centers in our community. Where when you go, when you're looking for where to put your child, that you've got some reasonable set of unbiased data that tells you that this is a high quality early learning center, right? That way, because we know that brain development over the life of human beings, 98% of it happens between the ages of 0 and 5, 90% of it between the ages of 0 and 5, 85 between 0 and 3. Our kids are literally sponges during that period of time. And we can't be treating those years like throwaway years. Because when our kids, my goal would be when our kids start kindergarten, 100% of the kids in this state begin kindergarten ready to learn. And that by third grade, 100% of our kids are on grade level reading because we know what kind of estimates and projections get made at that literacy, at third grade reading. And that we are graduating our kids. And that we're not just graduating them out into the world to be left to their own devices, but that we've got to reintroduce vocational training and apprenticeships and skill building back to public education. This is not a foreign thing. We've done this before. When I was coming up through school, we had trades. We had shop. We had electrical work. People learned real skills because college was it for me, but for my older siblings, it was learning a skill that could be monetized, that could allow them to get a good job, earn a good wage, and take care of themselves and their families. We can do it again in this state. We just have to make it a priority again. We gotta make it a priority. Ultimately, we want to be able to move our kids from high school into job and into career, or from high school into college. And college isn't for everybody. Right. It's partly because you may not choose it, partly because you may not be prepared for it, and we oughtn't shame people for that. We should equip them with the knowledge and the skills and the tools to make a good living and a good life for themselves, that the road is not over simply because you didn't go on to pursue higher education. We shouldn't make that a death sentence for anybody in this state. In Tallahassee, and I know we've got Representative Shaw here, he could probably tell you his own personal testimony better than most. But I've watched for the last 2 decades this state under Republican control. I've watched it with great horror these last 8 years under Governor Scott, who was, by the way, Trump before Trump was Trump. Right? We had our version of that. I mean, this is real. We had our version of it in this state before we got it nationally. We had a governor who says because he doesn't philosophically believe in Obamacare, 1.5 million people go without any health insurance. Good luck. Go off to yourself and figure it out. We have a governor who, because he didn't believe in Obama's stimulus, decided that he was going to take $1 billion that was granted to us by the federal government and turn it back around and send it to Washington to be given to other states, because he philosophically disagreed. We're taking federal money. Never mind, Florida is a donor state to the federal government, giving more money than we bring back. That's our money. But worse off is that that's money that could have been used and applied to building a 21st century infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. We deserve that. I deserve that. We deserve that not only because we're the 3rd largest state in America and we ought to be leading instead of following everybody else. We ought to be leading, but we deserve that because those are the kinds of jobs that put people to work at every level of the income rung. If you're the construction worker, you get to work. If you're the architect or the engineer, you get to work. If you're the food truck owner, you get to work. Those are good jobs, and we deserve to celebrate more than just low-wage jobs in this state. We ought to be celebrating and building an economy that works for people at every end of the spectrum. We shouldn't have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Whether you got a high school degree or a college degree, there are jobs we ought to be trying to invest in and build in this state that look around the bend. Even if we were to take just our state's challenges and decide to create an economy that exists just in trying to address our state's challenges. The governor tells us he's not a scientist and therefore can't, we don't need to be reminded, I know. But therefore, he can't wade into whether or not climate change, global warming is real. Never mind that on a non-rain day in South Beach, Miami, they're closing down streets because of high tide. Right? On a non-rain day. What kind of economy might exist in us leaning into that challenge? Right? Raising ground levels and putting in pumping stations and saving property and also people. There's an economy that exists just in the challenge. Just in the challenge by itself. Moreover, on this subject, what would it mean if Florida were to say we're going to be the capital of solar energy production? What would we not be the capital of solar energy production? It's a no-brainer. We are, after all, the sunshine state. More sun days than most, right? This isn't hard to think about. But we've got industries that have a stranglehold on how it is that this state does its future energy planning, and we have to break that stranglehold. And if we can't get the private sector to go with us in this, we have municipal electric authorities all around the state who would be more than happy to lean into that challenge. In fact, Tallahassee is one of them. We are building a 200-acre solar farm in our city, tripling our solar energy production. We're doing that. And guess what else? Those aren't jobs that you can ship overseas. Those are jobs, if you want a solar panel on this roof, you gotta send a man or a woman right up there to put it on there. If you build a solar field, you put a man or a woman right out there to build that solar field. We can do this as a state of Florida. We can do this if we choose, instead of shrinking from our challenges, rising to the challenge. And that's what I plan to do when I'm governor of the state of Florida, with your help. With your help. With your help. With your help. We all have been hearing, obviously, about the Sable Trail pipeline, and I had to make a public statement that I was against it. I thought it was a no-brainer. I didn't know that you had to do that. But apparently you do. And what I want to point out about that is that we got to be consistent in what it is that we think and what we believe. We can't change our position from day one to day two. If a pipeline is threatening to human health and clean water conditions in the state of Florida, it's a threat everywhere in this country. It's not just here. And so we have to be consistent in that messaging, right? And so when I'm governor, we're going to put teeth back into the Department of Environmental Protection. It serves a purpose. It serves a purpose. We didn't come up with it out of nowhere. It has intention, it has purpose, and it is to protect health and life and safety of our lives and animal life, clean water, clean air in this country. These things didn't come out of nowhere. Somebody abused it at one point in time. That's why we came up with regulations to make sure we couldn't be abused again. It's not some sick boogie animal, right? It didn't come out of thin air. It came to protect us, and we have to talk about that. We got to talk about it. What you need to know about me is that I've never shrunk from a challenge. I don't mind when marriage equality was won all across the country, and we had county after county after county saying that they would no longer issue marriage licenses in this state, many of them in my part of the state. I stood up and I said, come to the capital city of your state, where we will marry you. Where we recognize marriage laws. That's what we do. When our governor decided, in the midst of many of us being afraid about our own security because of the terrorist attacks that were happening around the country, what leaders are supposed to do in those moments are they're supposed to speak to those fears, but they're supposed to lift us up out of that fear. What did our governor decide to do? He decided, and the Congress joined him in doing this by passing a radical closure borders bill, where he says Syrian refugees were not welcome in the state of Florida. Now, never mind, the governor has no right to say who's welcome and who isn't in the state of Florida, but since he took liberties, I took liberties. And I said, come to the capital city where you're welcome, right? You're welcome in the capital city. You're welcome. Remember, these are people being forced out of their homes, their families, their lives being threatened, persecuted. Our values mean something not when it's easy. Our values are on display when it's hard. When it feels like you're being pressed down and it's not the most popular and you're not sure what public opinion is going to be, that's when we have to lean into what it is that we believe. Not when it's easy. And so don't let anybody fool you in the coming months about that position. It means something to have values and to stand by those values in good times and bad times, when people are afraid, when they're excited. Because they mean something. They're not temporary positions. When our governor decided that, and the president rather, decided that he was going to target and take on immigrants, we stood up. We said illegals, one, is not a noun. You don't call people illegals. It's not a noun. Not a person. Not a person. Not a person. And we all have to put that in our lexicon, because if people can get away with calling another living, breathing human being an illegal, it's intended to strip away their humanity.
That's right.
It's intended to make us not care anymore. That's what it's intended to do. And it's not by accident, it's intentional. Let's not mistake what that means and why people do it. But we, people of goodwill, all over this, they have to be willing to stand up, even when it's not easy. I've never needed a public poll to tell me what I think. Never needed a public poll to tell me what I believe in. My pastor puts it this way. He says, this world needs more people who are willing to set the temperature than those who are willing to just take it. He uses the verbiage of thermometer versus thermostats. And we got enough thermometers perpetrating as leaders. Enough people telling us the temperature, we know what that is. We need more people who are willing to call us to our better angels, to lift us out of fear and dissension and derision and division, to remind us that we got a lot more in common than we do that separates us. And I even mean that for our Republican brothers and sisters, who my guess is they're about as tired as what they're seeing out of Washington as we are. Many of them are. It feels like it's been 5 years. I don't know what we're sitting on right now. And it's every day there's something new that causes us to feel embarrassed. Not embarrassed for my country. I'm a proud American. I'm embarrassed that this is what we have put up as the voice, the mouthpiece, the image of what we are. We're great people. We're great people. We're great people. And we deserve to be represented. My final prediction is that we're not going to win this race for governor by pretending to be Republican light. We're going to win the governor's mansion, and we will win. We're going to win the governor's mansion by reminding people of what it is we believe, what we stand for, what makes us a better party, a better people with better ideas and better suggestions on how to move this state forward. We have them. When our issues are on the ballot, absent a candidate's name, people agree with us. They stand with us. So what is the disconnect? What is the disconnect? I believe that we can run leaning into our values and not running away from them. I believe that we can run and win. I believe that we can run and win by reminding people that we're a party that stands for the everyday working man and woman in this state. That's how we win this race. Because whether you are a working class white voter, or working class black voter, or working class Latino voter, if this economy isn't working for you, you're pissed off. And it doesn't matter that the Republicans are the different, you're upset about it. We have to lean into that. There's this debate around whether or not we double down on our base or talk to working class white people is ridiculous. Yes. It's ridiculous. We have to go everywhere. We've got to go everywhere, and we have to talk to everybody. Because we may find community amongst people that we may have misjudged. Last weekend I went to the Villages, the most Republican precinct in the state of Florida, I believe one of the most in the country. I went to the Villages. I said I was going to go everywhere. And on the way I asked the staff, like, what y'all think, about 50, 100 people in the room? And they said, yeah, man, that's about right. And we get there, it's a room teeming with over 500 people standing around the wall. Crazy. They gave me the energy I needed. It had been a rough couple of days. They gave me what I needed. And I shared with them my vision, and we took some questions, and we engaged. And then at the end, the leader of the club got up and he says, Gillum is my candidate for governor. I want to give him $20. And I want anybody else who wants Gillum to be governor to give $5 or $10 or $20. Do you know at the end of that event, they had amongst themselves raised over $5,000 in $5. Misjudge any community, any place. We have to go everywhere. Florida and the gubernatorial election is not the electoral college. You don't win Leon and lose Okaloosa, and then the winner of whatever those counties are takes the governorship. No. The man or woman who goes into the governor's office will get one more vote than the other person. And that vote may come from Okaloosa, or Leon, or Gaston, or Duval, or Miami-Dade. So we've got to compete, and we've got to tell people what it is that we stand for everywhere across this state. But we also need candidates at every level of the rung. We need superintendents, school board members, state legislators, because folks, when we fail to tell people are and what it is that what it is that we believe, how are they to follow us? How are they to trust us with leadership if we don't do that? Lastly, this state is wholly winnable by a Democrat. It's wholly winnable. Our last several candidates have lost the governor's mansion by fewer than 1 point, between 63 and 68,000 votes. Participation in midterms elections drops in every one of the 67 counties, but in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Duval County, it drops by an additional 5 to 10 points below what the state normal drop-off is. That's fatal. It's fatal for us. And who's dropping out? Largely they're voters of color, they're young voters, but it's not because they don't believe that being involved in the democratic process doesn't matter. It's because maybe we haven't given them the best reasons to show out, and that's not an attack on anybody. Not an attack on anybody. But folks have to know, because these are folks who are balancing between paying their bills, getting their kids to soccer practice, picking up from daycare, making sure that they're not trading between cutoff dates before something's turned off before they can pay it. They're dealing with everyday life. And what we have to do is convince them that if they voting for us will make a difference in their lives. That we actually have an agenda to impact that and impact it for the better. And I believe we can do that. In fact, I believe I can do that if you all allow me to be the Democratic nominee for governor. If you allow me to do that. I feel like a Baptist preacher because I think I've ended 3 times, but this really is it. This really is it. I think I am, Nancy. And now since I prefaced it with this is it, 30 thoughts have come into my mind to shut up. So I should have just shut up. Well, let me tell you, what you ought to know is that there will not be a candidate who will work harder for this. There will not be a candidate who is afraid to go anywhere in this state. I will not be that person. I'm going to go everywhere. I'm going to talk to as many people who are willing to listen and as many people who are willing to engage. But I believe that this is the time, and the time is now, that this is a moment for us in this state, for Democrats and for people of goodwill to reclaim power. Because when we lose, it's not the candidate's name. You know, we got a pantheon of all that. When we lose, it's the people who we stand in the gap for who lose. It's the 1.5 million people who don't have health insurance because the governor philosophically disagrees. It's all the people who didn't go to work building a 21st century transportation system for this state because we decided that we were going to stand up and rise to the challenge of the moment. That's who loses. Our kids lose. The ones who are being called failures. Their communities being called failures. Their schools being called failures. They're the ones who lose when Democrats, when people who believe like we do, don't stand up to this challenge, run and win. We've got to win, not for ourselves, we've got to win for them. We've got to show them that we care again, and that we're the party that's going to restore some sense of balance and hope and prosperity and future into the people of this state. Because we can do better than what we've gotten for the last 20 years. We can do better than what we've gotten. And if you all vote for me to be your nominee, I promise to do everything that I can. I promise to do everything that I can to be the best standard bearer for what we believe in as a party as is possible. If you give me that shot, and that's all I've ever asked for in my life, ever. When I ran for city commission at the age of 23, as a person not born in the city of Tallahassee, who came there for college, a city that at the time was practically 70% white, and I ran citywide, and nobody thought, including my mama, who gave me $20 of a campaign contribution, that we were going to do this. So I'm used to being told what we can't do. And then, as my grandmother used to say, I can show you better than I can tell you. If you give me the chance, I'm going to show you and the rest of the state that we're in this thing for real. I hope to have your vote. I hope to have your support. God bless you.